Hi everyone, it's Barbara with Acting for Community Theatre. I'm really excited today because I'm starting my playlist on auditioning. And today I want to start with what types of auditions you are likely to run into in community theatre. There are three main types, so let's get started. So the first type, of course, are monologues. These are solo performance pieces. You're talking to somebody, but they're not on stage with you. They are meant to be chosen by you, prepared by you, worked by you, polished by you, performed by you, and they are not meant to be redirected, generally speaking. So what do I mean by all that? When you choose your monologue, you've got two choices. You are either choosing from an existing play, or you are choosing from a monologue book that has been created as a collection of playwrights writing standalone monologues. So if you're choosing one from a play, you need to read the play. You need to be familiar with it so that you know who your character is, who they're speaking to, and what that relationship is, and what you want from that person. If you're choosing a standalone monologue, you need to understand something about the backstory and the given circumstances. Often the playwright will give you a little blurb at the front end telling you those things about your character and the given circumstances, and you may need to make up a backstory about that person and their given circumstances and who they're talking to. Another note on choosing a play is never choose a monologue rather, from the play you're auditioning for. What you want to do is choose something like that play. So if it's an historical piece, choose something classical. If it's a comedy, choose a comedy. Choose something like the play you're auditioning for. And then, of course, the piece is prepared by you. You need to work it, which means you don't decide the night before that you're going to work up a monologue for auditioning the next day. You need to take your time with monologues. They need to be worked and then put aside for a little bit and then thought about and worked again. And you need to go through the process of working through all the moments in your monologue, and it takes time. And finding a monologue, if you don't have one, can take a lot more time than you think it will. You should also have all those moments perfectly polished, and you should know your monologue cold so that when you go into that room, you are completely prepared. You know the play that it's come from, you understand all the moments because you've worked them and given them time and then worked them again, and you should have them polished so they are exactly perfect, because a monologue is a performance piece and the director wants to see it as a performance piece and that you're giving him your best. That's what he wants to see. Typically, a monologue is not something that the director will work with. So in other words, you will perform your piece and then you'll probably have a chat afterwards, as opposed to performing your piece and having the director say something like, "Could you do the last half of that again, but do it this way?" They don't usually redirect your monologues. They're usually standalone performance pieces for them to see you at your performance level so that they understand you know how to do your homework, that you know how to prepare a piece, you know how to polish a piece, and this is your performance level. So I will do a deep dive on monologues specifically because there's an awful lot to talk about in another video. But right now, that is the sort of nuts and bolts that you need to understand about what a monologue is and what a director is looking for in a monologue. A cold reading is 100% completely opposite thing. A cold reading is not chosen by you. It's not meant to be memorized. It's not meant to be prepared and the moments worked. It's not meant to be polished. It's not a solo performance piece. It's two people in a room, and it is meant for the director to go in and dig around and to redirect you. So monologues are about performance, whereas cold reads are really about rehearsing. So what is a cold reading? Typically, a director will take sides, and sides are just short pieces of a scene, from the play that they are directing, and they will use those to work with in the audition. So the way that it works is you will go to the audition and you'll go to the counter or whatever that is and tell them you're here. They will then give you your side. And your side is typically between, say, half a page to a page, maybe a little more than a page, and it's a two-person scene. and you will have not seen it before. Now, having said that, if you're smart, you have read the play that you're auditioning for before your audition, and you should be familiar, at least, with these characters. So you may have actually read that scene or that side without, flagging it, which you can also do. And you should be at least aware of who that character is and who the other character you're speaking is, and maybe even what they want from each other. That would be great. That would be your homework. If you know you're doing a cold reading, read the play and look for a scene that you might actually be pulled into for a side. Now, the director won't choose the climax of the play or really intense scenes for their sides, so that's good to know. Once you get your side, then you're going to have maybe 5, 10, maybe even 15 minutes in order to look it over before you go into your audition. Who will you be auditioning with? Well, that depends. Sometimes the director will pre-cast someone, and that someone will read those sides that all of the auditionees do. Or they might choose someone from the production team, like a stage manager or assistant stage manager, and they will read with all the auditionees. Or they might have 2 auditionees go in together, so you might be auditioning with someone who's in the waiting room with you. And if the cast is really large, the director might even pull in 6 or 8 people at a time and use all those auditionees in different roles, switching them up. They might even have more than one kind of side, like more than one selection from the play to work with. And that might also be another thing that happens. But usually it's just you and another person. So what do you do once you've got your side? Well, hopefully you've brought your highlighter or at least a pencil, because the first thing you should do, they will tell you what character you'll be reading for, is to highlight or mark that person's lines, all of them. Once you've done that, read through it 3 or 4 times, and you need to decide a couple of things. You need to figure out who this character is and who the other person is to them. So what's that relationship? You need to know what your character wants from the other character, and you need to pick at least 1 or 2 ways that they're planning on getting it. This all comes from the text. It all comes from the script. So these choices can be completely wrong, by the way. It doesn't really matter. What the director wants to see is that you can make those choices, you can commit to them, and then when he does redirects, you will throw those out and commit to what his redirects are, what his notes are. So when you first read the scene and you figure out, okay, I think my character wants forgiveness, let's say, from that character. And I'm looking through the scene and I see a couple of different sort of tacts that they can take that kind of looks like maybe I'm sort of begging and pleading for forgiveness here, and maybe over here I'm kind of trying to reason with them on why they should forgive me. And those are 2 things that you can choose. So now you've got what you want from that person, and you've got a couple of ways for you to get it. And those are what you need when you go into the audition room. Here's the trap that you don't want to fall into. Do not try to memorize your sides, ever. Don't ever do that. Even if you really think you can, don't, because it will trip you up every single time. I've never seen it work with actors. They always get tripped up by the smallest things. It could be saying "ah" instead of "the," and that is enough to trip your brain into that, "ooh, darn it," place. You don't want to be there. You want to play the action of the scene as best you can and stay in the moment. Okay, so now you're inside the rehearsal hall. You've figured out who your character is, who the other person is to them, what they want, and how they're going to get it. And these are just, again, rough. It's just something to try. You just have to commit to it and do your best. How do you physically do that? So practically, it causes a problem because you don't want to be doing this. This is not interesting. You want to be able to act with the other person. So say you have the first line. So you've got your first line highlighted and your thumb is right there beside your first line. You're going to look at that line, get it in your head, and then you're going to forget the page and focus on your scene partner. So you're going to get your line. Let's say it's, I'm surprised to see you here. And so you get the line and you look at your scene partner and you say, I'm surprised to see you here. Now, stay with them because now they got to go through their process. They're going to look at their page. Still stay with them, and then they're going to look at you, hopefully. And if they don't worry about it. Just pretend they did. And then they're going to say their line. You are still looking at them. When they say their line, listen. Really take it in. And after you let that line that they've said land, then you can go back to your page and look at your next line. And the way that you find your next line is sometime between where you've delivered your line and where you've heard theirs. You are simply going to slide your thumb down the page about 2 lines. And you will be surprised at how accurate you are. You'll be very close. And because you've highlighted your lines, you just look to where your thumb is and find the nearest highlight. It will probably be the right line. And you can practice this stuff at home, by the way. So you're going to, while they're speaking or just after you've delivered your line, that's when I always used to do it, is you're going to slide your thumb down so that when you listen to their line and you take it in, then you can look back at your page, your thumb's right there, your line is highlighted, you look at that line, and whatever that is, get it in your head, and then look at them and deliver it. And that is the mechanical, practical way of what you're doing. You always make sure you're connecting with your scene partner, not the page. The page is only there to give you that line. That's it. And in amongst all that, you're trying to play the things that you decided outside the room, which is, I'm fighting to get this from that person, and here's how I'm doing it. So you go through the scene the first time, committing to the decisions that you've made as best you can. And then the director is going to stop you and they will start redirecting you. They'll say, okay, I want to do the scene again, but this time, and then they'll give you some directions. And they might even say something completely crazy. So if it's a romantic scene, they might say, for example, could you please try blackmailing him there? Which makes absolutely no sense, probably. But the reason that they're asking is to see if you can really be directable. How directable are you? Can you grab onto something and run with it even when it doesn't make any sense? Can you do your best job of it even when it doesn't make a lot of sense? Because those are the kind of actors that directors want to work with. We don't want to work with people that say, oh, my character would never say that. We want to work with people who are going to say, yeah, I'll try it. So this is what this is all about, because cold readings are not about getting the scene to a really great place. Cold readings are about how does this actor interact with other people? Have they done a little bit of homework so that they kind of understand the process? And are they directable? That's the big thing that the director really wants to find out. Okay, so let's talk about callbacks now. So callbacks are done for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's a short list and they want to figure out which of these few people are going to be the one to get that role. But if they went through a monologue process the first time around, they will use callbacks to see the other side of it. In other words, to see the rehearsal side, to see how you work in rehearsal, how directable you are, etc. If they used cold readings and then they're doing callbacks, it's really just a way of drilling down a little deeper. The director might use different sides from the same play, and they might just work those scenes a little more deeply to see where you can go. But generally speaking, callbacks are not monologues. Generally speaking, they're a place where the director can actually really feel what it's like to work with that actor and what that actor is like with the other cast members that they think they're choosing. So that's basically a callback. It's basically the same rules apply as a cold reading, except it just goes a little bit deeper. You should be more committed to your choices. You should, and to the director's choices, more open to things. I mean, it's the same sort of idea. Okay, so those are monologues, cold readings, and callbacks in a nutshell. Audition, audition, audition for everything. That's my biggest note, is the best way to do a good audition is to have done dozens of them. And you just get better and better as you go. So I hope this has all been instructive and helpful for you. Take care, and I will see you very soon.